Hi, I'm Josh Fairbairn. I'm the CEO of MorphoMFG, and I'm going to have another episode of Breaking It Down. Let's do it. So today's video is what to do after you come up with an invention idea. Straight to licensing. I'm not a fan.
And welcome to Straight to Licensing with Amy Jo. I'm InventRight coach Amy Jo Brogan, and today I would like to talk to you about what is licensing. So let's start out with venturing. Venturing requires a lot of, it requires all of your time.
All right, before we get into this anymore, I am not a fan of licensing. So many people come to us and say, do you want to license my product? Can you pay for us? Can you do everything and I'll give you my idea? The reality is good ideas are a dime a dozen, right? A good friend of mine a few years ago said something to me that I won't forget, and it's execution is the modern day patent. People all think they're Steve Jobs. People all think they're coming out with a new iPhone, and that's great. And that kind of ambition and optimism is important as an entrepreneur. But to say that's the first step to have a great idea and that's the most important thing, I totally disagree with. Amy Jo saying that you need to do a ton of research, absolutely, know what you're doing, right? Get into it, go really deep. But just starting with licensing to me is a red flag almost always. To be able to license a product and get it in stores across the world, not an easy task. Not something that, as you said, newbies are going to be doing with their first product very regularly. In fact, it's so rare. I don't know if I've ever met somebody who's a newbie that gets right into licensing and has a huge success.
All of your money, your skill set, and then also skill sets that you may not have at that point in time. And you need to be able to have the strength to be able to wear many hats in order to make that successful. And even if that's the case, even if you're capable of doing that, it's still really challenging.
We're 2.5 minutes in, and there's no information, there's no really anything educational here. I'm hoping that in the last 2/3 of the video we get into some substance, because as of so far, there's nothing new.
Now, let's talk about licensing. Licensing allows you to focus on what you do best. So if you're a person that comes up with a lot of different ideas, or even if you just have this one idea in particular.
Again, no. Everybody comes up with a lot of ideas, right? Everyone I know has a good idea every once in a while. There's nothing special about having good ideas, and no one wants to license your good idea, right? You need substance. You need to actually have something. Right? If you just have an idea, nobody cares.
Particular that you really want to bring to market, but maybe you don't have the skill set or you're not in the position to be able to take that risk to venture. Licensing may be another opportunity for you to still bring your product to market. Licensing is a less expensive alternative than venturing, and that's the beauty of licensing, because when you try to license your product to a company, a brand, they have all of that already set in place. People know who they are, because they're a brand, they're a big company, right? They already have manufacturing facilities set up, they already have distribution set up, they know how to package products.
Like I've said a couple times, licensing is not the world that I'm in, right? It's just not something I'm really interested in, and I haven't seen it work that successfully very often. I could be totally wrong about this, but from my perspective, it's not like you're going to be licensing with no upfront cost, no investment, no money, no time. Have a good idea, give it to someone, and they're going to pay you for it. I just don't see that happening.
So how can one individual compete with that, right? It's very difficult. Venturing is not a bad thing by any means, but there's
it's a good point, but not the way that it's been said, in my opinion, right? How is one person supposed to compete with a big company that has marketing teams and budgets, that has shelving, manufacturing, all that stuff lined up? You see this a lot with Amazon, right? People come up with really, let's call them good ideas for the sake of the argument. They come up with good ideas and they put them on Amazon and they start selling. And they think, someone would really like this idea, right? What Amazon does is they just copy your idea and then they put all of their budgets and teams on doing that idea. You see this time and time again, right? People who try to sell on Amazon that haven't done a lot of the work to manufacture a product that is new innovative, something that not everyone is selling on Amazon. Amazon will just cut it out, do the exact same thing as you, and it's a race to the bottom. And when you're arguing, when you're trying to compete with a company like Amazon, you just can't compete. A race to the bottom, they can accept way less margin than you can as an individual. They'll beat you every single time.
A lot more that goes into venturing than necessarily, I don't want to say than licensing, but licensing allows you, like I said, to focus on what it is that you like to do. So when you're licensing a product, or when you're pursuing licensing, the roles are a little bit different than venturing. Of course, just like venturing, you need to be an expert. You need to do your research. You need to know your product. How is your product different? What is your point of difference there? You need to know that. And then,
So look, again, now we're more than halfway through the video, and I'm not trying to dog on Amy Jo too much. And there may be amazing licensing business behind the scenes. But with the title being what to do after you come up with an invention idea, I'm 5 minutes deep and it's all smoke, right? There's nothing here that has taught me what I need to do. Nothing that actually tells me what to do with my idea. And that, that's pretty commonplace in a lot of these videos where people are giving you these great ideas. Sure, right? Maybe there's better stuff behind the scenes, but ultimately I get the vibes that this is just a funnel that's going into her business to help you license your product and for this business to take a big cut of the profits that are supposedly large.
Prototype. Some products can be licensed without prototypes. It happens all the time. But if you have the opportunity to prototype a product...
Again, I don't think that happens all the time. Especially for newbies, right? What person is going from their normal 9 to 5, having a good idea, and then getting on the phone with Walmart and saying, hey, do you want to license this? It just doesn't happen, right? If you have 4 or 5 licensed products, and you have the connections and you're a proven winner in that space, the next one maybe you can go without a prototype. But this idea that you can, as an individual with no connections, a newbie in the space, have an idea and people are going to be lining up at the door to license your product and give you money is not reality.
I recommend doing that. I feel like that helps you become that much more of an expert. And if you want to file a provisional patent application, you can write a provisional patent application, file that for a patent pending status. If you're
one of my mentors told me really early on is that if you don't have revenue, if you have no sales, you don't have a business. So why do you need business cards? Why do you need a website? Why do you need a patent, right? Going back to the point about execution, make an MVP. Right? Make a good representation of what your final product is, and then see if people want it, right? Throw up a landing page. See if you can get people to click through and pre-buy your product. Run a crowdfunding campaign, right? Go around whatever communities you're a part of and ask people if they want to buy your product in advance, right? That's the way that you can tell if people want it, right? Spending money on a patent and doing all of these little things, there's a time and a place, and it's not at the beginning before you have any sales, in my opinion. Nobody wants to copy your idea until it's proven winner, right? Until you've been able to sell, right? People always talk about China being a place where they steal your ideas. People steal ideas all over the world. It's easier in China because you're making it here, right? The reality, though, is no one's going to steal your idea because it's so good, because you're so smart. That's just not what people are interested in. People are interested in this. And until you have that, no one's copying your idea. When people start copying ideas, you should almost take it as a compliment. It means you're doing good business. It means that you're making lots of sales. It means people are jealous of what you're doing and they want a piece of it, right? Early on, getting your patents filed, I keep going back to maybe there is a place for that in licensing if you have the connections or if you were to work with this company. But as a newbie, it shouldn't be your first steps.
Falls into that. Again, this is the research that you need to put together for your product, no matter whether you license or you venture. But with the licensing, these are your steps that you need to do. Be an expert. Prototype if you need to. Put your marketing materials together. Get your IP, your intellectual property if you need to, and then you start shopping it around to companies. Those brands that we were talking about.
So again, right now, I'm happy to say that at 6 minutes, there are some to-dos, right? When you have an invention, what are the to-dos? What's your checklist of what to do? Now we're talking about some, and that's good, but they're very basic, right? Make marketing materials, make a prototype, be an expert. Those are very vague concepts, very subjective, right? In a to-do, right, what I'm looking for is specific steps. How do you make a prototype? What kind of marketing materials do I need? What qualifies you as an expert, right? Those are the questions that need to be answered, and not, some of these more vague, broader perspectives.
If a company wants to license your product, they are going to pay you a royalty rate per unit sold. Okay? Now those rates vary depending on the industry that you're in, the category of your product, how many units are expected to be sold.
I think one thing to remember about licensing too, and this is probably where all of my, dislike of this type of world comes from, is only the best of the best ideas or the most connected people with whatever ideas are going to get somebody to pay for everything. Why are they going to pay? Because they're going to make a lot of money. Money that, if you really do have a good idea, should be in your or your company's product. The royalty world is like the music world, right? If you're just gonna take a royalty or a percentage of the money you earn, who's really making the money, right? It's the labels. It's the people who are behind the scenes. It's going to be the same thing in a lot of these types of situations. You're going to make a little bit of money, and they're going to make a lot.
Different things like that, right? How the length of the contract, all of those things, cost for manufacturing, retail price. So you have to take all of those things into consideration. But let's say, the company says, hey, I'll give you 5% royalty rate per unit sold. Now, a lot of people will say, no, I want more. I want to be paid more than that on my product. Okay, well, is it worth the risk to you? So I just want to kind of just show you the pros and cons of both of them. What's the difference? What is the right fit for you? Okay. So I just want to point out the differences between venturing and licensing. Venturing, there's a lot more risk involved. There's a lot more investment involved, time, stress, all of those things. And if it ends up being successful, then yeah, you'll probably get paid more money. That's a big if. And then licensing, if you're able to...
It's a big if, but it's a big if on both sides. If a product's going to be successful, there's always a way to build a team to make it successful. Plain and simple, right? If your product's going to work, it's going to work.
To license it, it's a smaller profit margin for you, I guess you could say, but you don't have to take on that risk, and you don't have to worry about being stressed out. You can license that product and move on to...
Being an entrepreneur is stressful no matter what. Don't buy that from anyone. Don't buy that you're going to have an easy path and it's going to be easy and all you have to do is collect checks because you had a good idea. That's just not reality, right? Being an entrepreneur is a lot of sleepless, stressful nights. If you're not cut out for it, then you should stop before you start, right? There's no easy path. This may have a great business model behind this video. I'm just going to cut it here. But this video, I'm going to give a C-. Not a lot of juice. I'm imagining that what's really happening is that behind this scene, like I mentioned, there's a funnel that you can work with Amy Jo to bring your product to licensors. That may be great. Amy Jo may be very well connected. You may actually just have a good idea and collect a royalty check. That is very possible. But a lot of these licensing companies make it sound easy. They make it sound like this is a dream come true and that you're going to make millions if you just have your idea and license it. Remember, that's not the reality. Remember that you will be stressed. It will be hard. It won't be easy. But if it was easy, nobody'd do it. Peace.